welcome to another episode of the Fourth and Goal podcast. I'm your host, Drew, along with Rob, who is back. Say hi to everybody, Rob.
Yeah, how you doing, folks? Sorry I missed last week. Had a bit of a medical emergency, but we're all good. We're back in the U.S. For the next couple months, and we're excited for the end of this football season. Let's go.
Yeah. Thoughts and prayers with Rob and all his family, very much so from myself, as well as hopefully everybody in the comment section and watching along. Always with you, my mans.
Appreciate it, dog.
Yeah, happy to have you back, and let's get right into our news and notes, because again, as always, there's a lot to cover this week, and we start, as always, with the saddest part of the podcast, really a great start to the podcast, and it's the injury report. Rob, do you want to take us through a bit of the injury report?
Yeah, I mean, I think we say it every week, another blow in another primetime game, right? You had Trevor Lawrence in the middle of the key comeback against the Browning Bengals, of all people. Go shout out Pac-12. And so he goes down, and you could see it immedially, right? You could tell he was hurt. He was pissed. Like, it was bad right off the bat.
He tossed his helmet. Like, he was
Right. And that was the second big injury of that game for the Jags, because you had Christian Kirk also going down early, I think on the first or second drive, right?
I think it was the first play of the game.
Yeah, I think it was the first. It was like an Aaron Rodgers sort of deal. Like, we hadn't even settled in yet. People were still getting their popcorn, and he was already out.
Exactly.
Also blew my fantasy team, but my fantasy team's done anyways. And then, of course, closer to home, my dear Kenny Pickett, small hands himself, is out for the foreseeable future. He's got a surgery on his ankle.
Whatever will the Steelers do missing Kenny Pickett? Oh!
Hey, he went for 400. He took that team to 400 yards as soon as we fired Canada. So who knows? Maybe Mitch Trubisky will actually.
Yeah. Jake Browning took that team for 400 yards with the Bengals. So it's not that competent a statement, my mans.
Did you see? But in general, man, like, what is the state of quarterbacks in the NFL right now? We had C.J. Beathard going up against Jake Browning. Joe Flacco's throwing touchdowns. Like, this, DTR got knocked out. Like, this is just wild. It's mayhem in the quarterback position.
This is one of the craziest years of quarterback injuries. Like, the amount of effort the NFL has put into protecting the quarterback, and I have never seen a year where quarterbacks have been going down at this high a clip. And, like, you have everyone. You have stars. You have literally the entire AFC North minus Lamar Jackson.
And he was hurt last year. But, yeah, and the thing is, it's not – these injuries are kind of freakish, right? None of them are because of a late hit or a dirty hit. Like, the rules are working, actually. It's just these guys are getting hurt. And so I don't know what you can do. You know the NFL's not happy about it, but I just don't know what the solution is. I mean, it's just so fast, so big. These defensive linemen are running 4.4, 4.6 40s at 314 pounds. So of course they're gonna absolutely tear you up when they touch you.
Well, yeah, because like I think about some of the big injuries, like the Rodgers injury, the Burrow injury, the Lawrence injury. It's just like, what are you gonna do about this? It's like, like Lawrence, his own offensive lineman stepped on him. Burrow, while throwing, hit a defender's helmet with his hand, and like Aaron Rodgers was just like a weird errant step on not really that big a hit. Like you could blame the turf on that one maybe, but like these aren't defensive linemen clobbering the quarterback. This is just situational shit that's all kind of come together this year.
Yeah. No, it's awful. But again, let's move on from the injury corner. We should really maybe tuck that in 5 minutes into the podcast.
Yeah, make it more of a shit sandwich, not a hey, here's the shit.
Exactly. Welcome to the podcast. And by the way, they're dropping like flies. But anyways, we had some good. We had a bit of free agent action, right? So Shaq Leonard signed to the Eagles, and Tim Boyle, who somehow started for 2 weeks for the Jets, has also been released.
Yeah, I mean the Jets. Are we at the point where we're all in agreement that somehow, some way, Zach Wilson is actually the best Jets option?
What is White?
He's with he's the backup with the Dolphins now.
He's on the Dolphins? Okay, because he was their best quarterback in the last, 5 years, I swear. So,
well, Joe Flacco was even decent for them last year. Like, let's not forget.
I did.
Yeah, fair enough. But I think the bigger news here, like the Jets are done. Like they're not in that massive AFC playoff picture. Like this is just, they're just playing to try to give a little bit of a hope for next year, similar to what happened last year. But I think the bigger news is Shaq Leonard going to the Eagles, as you say, and I'm shocked. I'm honestly shocked. Like with how
Hell
long
of a pickup.
yeah, with how long he took to sign, I was convinced he was kind of like biding his time, waiting to figure out which team, like which random team was going to be like, oh, I like them a little bit more. And with the Eagles losing and Cowboys winning, I'm like, oh, perfect opportunity for him to go to the Cowboys, who are getting hot at the right time to pick up this guy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm mourning him because I thought the Steelers were a perfect fit for him. I'm glad he's not on the Ravens. I think this is a great pickup for the Eagles. It just gives him depth at that position. You have a leader who can like be there in the playoffs and provide that sort of like been there, done that wisdom. So I think that's a hell of a pickup for the Eagles. I don't know what their cap situation looks like, but they managed to pull it off and they needed it.
Yeah, I don't think he's costing them a ton of money. I think it's like a 1 year, probably a fairly low dollar figure for the remainder of the year. So I don't think the cap's going to be that significant of a factor in relation to this. But I do want to say, and maybe this is a good segue out of news and notes and into the Week 13 review, is that this is not the difference maker that's going to help them beat the 49ers, who literally laid a pile driver on them. They dug a grave 6 feet deep, dug an additional 6 feet, and buried the Eagles in that game.
Dude, I loved so much of the Niners swag in Philly for that game. You had Jerry Rice pregame stunting with all of his rings, showing it off to the crowd. Debo showed up in the black Air Forces and was just like lights out. Like, I just loved what the Niners brought to the table there. And they put a mollywomping on the Eagles. I actually placed an in-game on the Eagles at like plus 10.5, thinking they'd come back and make that a game. And it was just, by the second quarter, I knew that was a lost bet.
Honestly, like the first quarter, the 49ers had -6 yards. They did not fail to score a touchdown on a single drive after that.
Wild. Okay, speaking of big games, who had the bigger game? Was it Debo or DK? Who were you more impressed with their 3 touchdowns?
I'm going to give it to Debo. DK's was impressive, and it was against the Cowboys, but in all honesty, that Thursday night game, I watched that on stream, and it was a great high-scoring affair on paper, but the refs created about 10 to 15 points for both teams in that game.
That was one of the worst officiating games I'd seen. I was going to say in a while because of just how much laundry was on the field. But then that Chiefs-Packers game comes along, and that final drive, they just absolutely blew it. I mean, okay, fine. You do have to eject Pacheco there. Can't be throwing punches. I'm not so mad at that one. But you had that late hit call on Mahomes as he's running out of bounds, which the dude's fighting for the first down. You got to let him make that hit. And then you have the atrocious poor Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who can't seem to find a break on national television. He gets absolutely molested on the 5-yard line, no call. And then on the Hail Mary, that for me is not a big one because those let him.
I'm
not
very much ever, so. I have no problem with no PI on the Hail Mary.
Yeah, just let him jump and play volleyball.
Yeah, if you call PIs on Hail Marys, it's just the game's over. But it's just chaos. But I agree. Like that one on Valdez-Scantling, it's like that was one of the most clear PIs I've seen in a long time that went uncalled. I understand it's tough because that's one of those plays that it is a game-changing call that you just made. But when it's that egregious, and I'm very much so, if it's ticky-tack, I want the laundry to stay in the pocket.
Same. I'm a big fan of but he got tackled. Through, he went through Marquez Valdez. I forget who the defender was, but he did not make a play on that ball. He tackled the wide receiver and then touched the ball. And And I just don't know how that at that stage these things aren't all going to New York for review. You have the ref in the booth being like, "This is atrocious" on both of the calls, the one they did
Yeah.
call on Mahomes and the one they didn't call. So you have the NFL ref guy already kind of blowing them up. So there are still some kinks in this review system or lack thereof. In
Yeah.
these like final moment drives, like you said, that are just changing these games. And I think we all just want to see the product, right? We don't want to see the yellow flags
Yeah.
like we did in that Cowboys Seahawks game. Jeez.
Yeah, and you know what? I do always say we flame the refs all the time. We often do not give refs the credit when the refs actually do a good job. And I want to say the Monday Nighter, very little flags, super exciting game. Most of the flags that were called, I was like like I want to give full credit. We flame the refs. Let's give them credit when they have a good game. I think they did a great job on the Monday Nighter. Full credit to that ref.
I agree. In the Steelers Cardinals game, they were also very good. And so it's unfortunate that these happen to be on the primetime games, right?
Yeah.
And so and a ref is like a good busser or it's like they're doing their best when you're never noticing them, right?
Exactly.
And that's one of those things you never get the credit when you're doing good, but you will always get the blame when it's these moments of just primetime game changing against the Chiefs and Taylor Swift and all the Swifties, you know. So you gotta give them credit where it's due. And unfortunately that just hasn't been happening in these primetime games.
No.
For the exception of Monday night, as you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly.
What else stuck out to you this week?
I mean, the eternal question of Arthur Smith and the Falcons. Is their offense good or is it horrendous? And I don't know the answer.
Besides the Panthers, that whole division to me is kind of an anomaly because these Falcons, the Bucks, and the Saints are all like boring, garbage, but sometimes good. They can be frisky, but then you watch some just terrible plays. You have like the gadget Taysom Hill stuff, but then you have Arthur Smith doing whatever he likes to do. Like, you know, it's just, and the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield, like, what is that team all about? And they're playing each other this week. We'll talk about that in a bit. But that whole division is an enigma to me.
Yeah, the fact that the NFC South, I mean, this is always the case, though. There always seems to be that one division that it's like, how the hell does this division get a playoff spot? And it's funny.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those ones where but then you have the Seahawks and the Marshawn Lynch run, and so ever since then you can no longer say that those teams don't deserve to be in, because that was a 7-8 team, right, or 7-9 and stuff.
7-9, yeah. Well, the thing is, we came into the season and it was like, okay, there's two terrible divisions in football: the NFC South and the AFC South, and we gotta give some fucking props to the AFC South. You have the 8-4 Jaguars, the 7-5 Texans, and the 7-5 Colts, and even the Titans, who are the worst team, aren't as bad as you'd expect for the worst team in what was supposed to be the worst division in football.
Yeah, no, that's been a frisky division. What can you? Gardner Minshew Colts, let's not forget, like another quarterback injury, Anthony Richardson, right?
Yeah.
And that's a tough team. That's a tough out, that whole division. And unfortunately for my AFC North, we were the toughest division. And just over the last 3-4 weeks with all these injuries, Burrow going down, Watson going down, Pickett going down, all of a sudden we're looking pretty washed up, right? I think the Steelers might be the biggest winner because the Mitch to Pickett ratio might actually be pretty, like, we might not miss
comparable. It's the most
We're not like pulling Joe Flacco out of the local Target and asking him to play again.
They're literally on QB.
But I do want to shout out two games that were close to my heart this week, which was the Chargers scoring 6 whole points against the Pats, and they're 0. And you had already mentioned that Falcons-Jets game, but man, just shout out to the great game of the National Football League this week. Those two games really just secured.
This is the first time since 1938 that a team has lost 3 straight games where they haven't allowed more than 10 points, and the Patriots just did that.
So what does that say about our man Bill?
I think what it says, I think it means he's still a really good coach because he's a defensive-minded coach. That's what he does. He's not known to be an offensive guy. Like, that's what Bill O'Brien and Josh McDaniels were always there for. He was always the defense first guy.
Well, and Tom Brady was there on the
Tom
offensive
Brady
side.
being quarterback for sure. But I'm saying like,
yeah, you can argue that given the hand he's been dealt, he's actually fucking playing it pretty well.
yeah, like I almost look at it and I'm like, Bill Belichick, maybe not the best GM. Bill Belichick, maybe not a great offensive mind. We might have thought he just knew the whole game of football, but like Bill Belichick has proven again, he's turned this into one of the scariest defenses in the NFL. Like they can stop anyone, and they got your Steelers this week on Thursday Night Football.
I know. We'll get to that soon. Quickly, right before we do, two more things. One, can we agree? I don't know. I know they won that game by 6 points, but I don't think Justin Herbert is a good winning quarterback. I know he looks like he's great, and he just fits all the bills, and like he checks all the boxes, and everybody loves him. But this man does not inspire me to win games. Maybe it's the Chargers, maybe it's the Los Angeles fan base, but I just don't. I don't see him winning.
I'm going to tell you, I do disagree. I think Justin Herbert's the real deal, but...
I know you do. This is a contrarian opinion I'm throwing out there.
Yeah, I look at it similar to how your Steelers fans looked at Kenny Pickett and Matt Canada. Because it's like, until we can see Justin Herbert and this team without Brandon fucking Staley, until we can see that, I'm not willing to sell on Justin Herbert and his ability to win. Because Brandon Staley has thrown away so many games, so many opportunities. How many times have you watched a Chargers game and been like, what the fuck are they doing?
He might be one of the worst. He might be the worst coach in the league right now.
I think he's got to be. Like, Josh McDaniels probably was, but he's gone.
Yeah.
Like, there's a
Arthur,
few in there.
But
Arthur
winning
Smith,
somehow.
Yeah, Arthur Smith's up there. You probably got Eberflus with the Bears up there.
Yeah. God, that team. Your Lions are playing this week, by the way.
Yeah.
And wait, who's the Panthers head coach?
It's a new one because they fired Frank Reich. They just have like
right. I don't know who they put in charge, but that team's god awful.
I look at situations like the Panthers and the Raiders, and I'm not going to include their interim head coaches as good or bad head coaches because it's like you're just there until they hire someone. Pardon?
Yeah, but I think Antonio Pierce might be able to hold that down in Oakland. Full-time role.
He's going to have a shot. And we're going to get to our pick soon. And I might have had a spicy Raiders pick in there.
Ooh. Speaking of which, should we head over to our Week 14? I think it's time.
It's a good idea. So let's get the picks up, and there you all can see I picked the Vikings to lose to the Raiders in Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's not a bad pick. I'm still a Patriots fan. The problem is I'm a little pissed off at them because I had the Vikings against the Bears in my Survivor League. I was one of 3 left. It was awful. And then this week, the guy who actually won had the guy who lost out of the last 2 left had the Jags. And so we were all watching to see if CJ Beathard and Jake Browning were going to decide this 40-person Survivor League. And emails and WhatsApps were going out just like, what in the fuck has happened to the National Football League? But I digress. But yeah, so that Vikings team, I've lost some confidence in. I think we're all just big fans of Josh Dobbs.
Oh, absolutely.
But maybe they're regressing back to orbit a little bit.
Yeah, I very much so like that pun, like that reference there. Well played. But yeah, I love the Patriots. Yeah, I love the Patriots. I want the Vikings to win this, even as a Lions fan. But I look at this and I'm like, the Raiders have been frisky since Antonio Pierce came in. It's in Vegas. The Vikings, there's already even a little bit of a quarterback controversy. They are getting Jefferson back, so that is a factor. But
is he back for this game for sure?
He's going to be back for this game, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we'll see how much that spices things up for them. But, I mean, that Vegas plays well in Vegas, right? The Raiders are a feeding off the energy sort of team. Like we mentioned, Pierce is giving them some fire. They're still just the Raiders. It's
yeah, exactly.
But again, there's a lot of toss-ups this week. I mean, you look at these games. So obviously you have these NFC South teams. Again, the most boring division: Bucks, Falcons, Panthers, Saints. Honestly, the Panthers could be a good sneaky plus pick there, an upset. And then you have this Colts Bengals game, which somehow might actually be a phenomenal game out of nowhere with Gardner Minshew versus Browning.
And what's new? What's new? We picked different on that. You picked the Colts. I picked the Bengals. We can't figure out the Bengals.
Dude, no, we cannot. It's even worse than the Falcons. And I'm in Cincy. I actually had money on the Jags heading into the game last night, and I was at a bar getting absolutely manhandled by the entire Houday fan base. And so this time, I just, you know what? I don't think he has the magic on a shorter week. They are at home, which is an advantage, but that's not too big. Like, Indianapolis pulls pretty well, actually, in the Cincinnati area because it's not too far. It's only like an hour drive away. So it's less of a home game to me. But I just did find it funny that yet again we couldn't. I think we've agreed twice this week, this year on the Bengals.
Yeah, and both times it was when we both picked the Bengals and they lost.
Yeah, exactly.
So like we don't know. Nobody we don't know what's going on with the Bengals, and another team we don't know what's going on with. There's a guy on YouTube I watch, much bigger football streamers, content creators than we are. Tom Grossi. I watch him. He's a great watch. If you don't watch him, highly recommended. But he has not picked a Steelers game right this whole year. He doesn't pick them every week, and we are through 13 weeks. He has yet to pick a Steelers game.
I mean, it's the same thing. And so I wanted to take the Steelers against the Bengals in my Survivor, ended up with the Vikings. And then this week, it was like, oh, we're going to smash the Cardinals. And then we get torched by the Cardinals. Yeah. And so here we are, Thursday night at home against the Patriots. I'm picking the Steelers, obviously, there.
I picked them too, but it's like the way to sell this game, two of potentially the greatest head coaches in the NFL right now.
This is all about the X's and O's, right? This is like, there's no stars really on any of these teams, not national stars at least.
TJ Watt.
Yeah, well, sorry, obviously. TJ Watt. But yeah, this could be another like 13-9 game. For those of you that are degenerate gamblers like ourselves, I'm slamming the under on this game because I just do not see a lot of offense.
Okay. Actually, I'm going to look this up right now. What do you think the over-under is on this game?
Yeah, you go look at the line. I'm going to throw out what I think. We're going to do a little Simmons cousin Sal here and guess the line on this one. But we're doing the over-under. So my guess is 29.5.
Damn, that was close. It's 30.5.
Ooh, that was close.
That was well done. Yeah, because dude, how low of an over-under is that? That's absurd.
That's what, 15 points per team?
Yeah.
They're expecting 2 touchdowns a team.
Yeah.
That's disrespectful.
That's disrespectful. I mean, it's disrespectful, but I'm also considering taking the under.
I'm going to tease that up to like 35 and then take it.
Oh, man.
All right, what other games you looking at this week? So we got some fun ones in the Niners, Seahawks, the Eagles, Cowboys, and Chiefs, Bills, right? Those 3 games are aces.
I mean, Eagles,
and
Cowboys.
None of them are in prime time. Eagles, Cowboys.
Yeah, Eagles, Cowboys, we split on. I took Cowboys, you took Eagles. Bills, Chiefs, we split on. I took Bills, you took Chiefs. What was the other one you were bringing up? Was that the 49ers, Seahawks?
Niners, Seahawks.
We both took the Niners, and I actually took that as my lock of the week. Like the Niners are just that good.
Yeah, and they're at home. I like the Seahawks. They're frisky. I would have liked to see Geno Smith more out of him on that last drive to beat the Cowboys or to at least take that game to overtime. That was a little that took a lot of the wind out of their sails, I think. And so I'm also not too confident in them. My lock was the Dolphins at home. I think Will Levis can be good. That team doesn't impress me too much. And so I think the Dolphins should torch.
I don't disagree with
Go
you.
against bad teams.
And Vegas agrees. We'll quickly toss Vegas up. So yeah, they have that same one as you, Rob.
Yeah.
The one I'm scared about, I'll say, as a Lions fan, I'm kind of scared going into Soldier Field. I'm not gonna
You
lie
guys
here.
suck against running quarterbacks, and like last year,
We suck against running quarterbacks. They eat us alive.
Well, it's funny enough because that brings us to best bets with Bookie Bob. Those of us that follow along at home, unless you had any commentary on any of those lightning games, we can talk about them a bit. Because my bet for the week, I put $5 on your Lions and my Steelers in a tease in a parlay.
Ah, appreciate it. I mean, you're gonna lose after Thursday, but
it's quite possible. But I don't know. It was one of those weeks there was a lot of toss-ups. I didn't like the favorites with points. And I was like, you know what? This felt good. This felt like a good 4th and goal bet. So I got $5 on that. It's plus 116 together. So hoping to get a 572 profit out of that.
yeah.
What are you looking at this week?
I spread it out a little bit. I liked a bunch of the specials, but they're all value bets, I'll say. So what I got is CeeDee Lamb or A.J. Brown to go off for 150 plus receiving yards. Let me be clear. That's at plus 500. I am betting that exclusively for CeeDee Lamb's chance of doing that. A.J. Brown is not doing this against that team because, let's be clear, Deron Bland, in his absolute liability ass, except for when he gets pick sixes, is going to be covering Devonta Smith. So if you like Devonta Smith, bet the Devonta Smith over.
I was going to talk about that. What do they call him? The Slim Reaper. I think he can have a big game this game. There was a Deron Bland plus 3,400 to get a pick six. And I was thinking I might check our Twitter because I might throw $1 on that or two heading into the game just for fun.
Either way, Deron Bland, I mean, anyone who watched the Thursday night game knows how much of an absolute liability he was in that game, but he still got an interception. So, this.
Oh, and we mentioned that earlier in the cast, but I want to come back to it. That DK Metcalf catch and run, I think they said something like it was the fastest a player has reached on the NFL field since 2020 or something. So in the last 4 or 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like 285 pounds. The man caught that ball and fucking took off.
Oh,
that was so impressive.
That was insane. Tyreek, eat your heart out.
Yeah, for real. And that's a man-child right there. But yeah, so that Deron Bland bet, I might throw some out there. What else do we got?
So
I think DJ Stroud, man, is legit.
I like my bets first.
Oh, sorry.
And then we can get into these other stuff. I have $2 on the basically CeeDee Lamb or A.J. Brown, but really CeeDee Lamb. That's a plus 500. I have $2 on Keenan Allen to get 12 receptions against the Broncos at plus 750. This is just me knowing that the Chargers have no other options.
Yeah, and I've been betting on Eckler, and he's bad. He's not performing.
No, my fantasy team, Keenan Allen's been great, but I drafted Eckler first round. Terrible pick. I was waiting through that injury, being like, okay, Eckler's going to come back. The schedule's going to be good. He's going to be a major option, and he just hasn't had it this year. He's just not the same guy.
I had him to get 25 yards in one of these halves, and he got 21, and then he didn't score a touchdown. It was awful. And then, so fun fact, I just looked up Keenan Allen stats. How many games do you think he has 12 or more receptions in so far this season?
I think he has it in 3.
It's in 2. Against the Vikings early in the season and against the Ravens 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So again, he can do it against good defenses too, because the Chargers do the same thing they always do. The Chargers will make any game close. If they play against a team that goes off, they'll go off. If they play against a team that plays like shit, they'll play like shit.
They really do play to the level of their competition.
Yeah, anyone who listened to the podcast last week, I even said this. I literally said the Chargers are playing the Patriots, which means that if the Patriots suck, my Keenan Allen bet's not hitting.
And it didn't.
Yeah. And then my third one is Keenan Allen, another Keenan Allen, because again, I'm just trusting Keenan. Keenan Allen and Cortland Sutton to combine for 175 yards. That's at plus 125. I put $5 on that, so if any of them hit, I profit.
Yeah, I like that last one. I think Sutton's coming on of late. Keenan's averaging. I got his game logs up here. He's actually hit 175 himself once, 215, but he floats around 80. So
Yeah.
you just need kind of 100 from one of those guys, and you should be able to hit that. If for the viewers that have been following along all season, Drew is still very much in the money. We got to do a little bit of housekeeping, but he's around $175 profit. Your boy, Uncle Bob, is sitting at negative 64. My last bet that we broadcast was a $20 Lions to cover the spread on Turkey Day. And then I forgot that the Lions always lose on Turkey Day and the Cowboys always win. And that's the bet I always place every year. But for some reason, so I guess I might have put the stink on both our teams this week. We'll find out.
Yeah, you clearly weren't paying attention to the waxing gibbous moon, my friend.
Yeah, you're right. I wasn't.
The last thing before we leave Bookie Bob and we end this podcast that I gotta ask you, if you don't already know, who do you think the front runner for MVP is? It's actually two people tied.
My guess would be it's going to be Dak and Jalen.
Jalen's third. Dak is one of them.
Dak's one of them. The other one would be CMC.
No, CMC's ninth.
What?
I know. That's absurd.
That seems too good, but that's an outrageous. He should at least be top five.
I think him or Tyreek are personally my MVPs. But it's not either.
It can't be Mahomes.
Nope.
Trevor just got hurt. Is it Goff?
No, it's not Goff.
Okay,
Goff's
good.
like
I'm worried that we're getting a little too fucking Twilight Zone here. I don't know. You got me stumped on the
Brock Purdy.
I like lightweight considered him, but when you said CMC was ninth, I figured they had all the Niners. The team's so good, you don't give it to anyone because there's no MVP. No. So Brock Purdy, wow. I think he was like plus 3,500 at the beginning of the season or something. Ridiculous.
He would have been a great value pick. Like, I still don't mind my Jalen Hurts pick that I made, but Brock Purdy, he's leading the league in passer rating. He's leading the league in yards per attempt. Like, he only has 6 picks to 23 touchdowns. Like, he's doing everything you could ever ask of a guy.
Damn. You're right. This has been a wacky season. If we have Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy at the head of the MVP race, and CJ Beathard and Jake Browning deciding survivor games.
No, and CJ Beathard and Jake Browning having a fucking shootout.
I know, dude. That game was so exciting, and the bar was lit. I was at it. It was a good time. I wasn't able to join the stream because I was enjoying the revelry of the Cincinnati environment. So. Hey, we'll have to keep monitoring that. It looks like my Joe Burrow for MVP pick's nowhere to be found, but I think we knew that a long time ago.
That's been solidified since week 3, really.
All right, so So everyone keep your eye out for Twitter. I am back in a country that has access to state that has access to some legal gambling. FanDuel shout out, so I can dig in a little deeper these days and place some bets. So hopefully we will get those on the Twitter prior to this slate of games.
And let's be very clear, the FanDuel shout out. We're not sponsored by FanDuel. If they want to sponsor us, hey, please.
That being said, DraftKings,
BetMGM, we're good with all of you.
As Dave Chappelle once said, I've done ads for Coke and Pepsi, but Pepsi paid me recently, so it tastes better.
Exactly right. Either way, guys, that's it for this episode of the podcast. You can catch us again next week at the same time for our next episode as well. You can see our shorts dropping daily over on YouTube, Instagram, and YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok.
It's X now, not Twitter. Get with the program.
Yeah. It's all these. There's so many apps. It's confusing. But either way, you can catch it at 4th and Goal 1-1. And you can find us on Twitch at 4th and Goal 1-1, where we'll be doing live streams for Thursday, Sunday, and Monday Night Football. We hope to catch you all there. But with that, we'll see you all next week.